You're not at 10% body fat, and unfortunately, it's almost certainly because of something you're doing on purpose. Something that looks like effort and feels like commitment, which is exactly why you haven't spotted it yet. In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 mistakes keeping you from 10% body fat, why they're almost impossible to see from the inside, and exactly what to change so you can finally get lean without the gym taking over your life. Because I've been a PT for 11 years and trained myself for 14, and at least one of these is going to make you think, yep, that's exactly what I've been doing. And to show you what I mean, I want to start with the mistake that's hiding in plain sight inside almost every single training plan I've ever seen. So mistake 1 is training too many days. And here's why this one is so hard to spot, because it doesn't look like a mistake at all. It looks exactly like what you're supposed to be doing. You decide you're getting back on it, you sit down and plan the week. Monday chest, Tuesday back, Wednesday rest, Thursday legs, Friday shoulders, and it looks brilliant on paper. The kind of thing that would get the nod of approval for pretty much anyone in the fitness space. And for 2 or 3 weeks, it works. Showing up, you feel good about yourself, the routine feels good, then work gets busy. You miss Tuesday, and because you miss Tuesday, Thursday doesn't quite make sense anymore. So you miss that one too. And now, mentally, the whole week is written off before you've even finished. But here's what's actually happening underneath the pattern though. 5 and 6 day programs are built for people whose entire lives revolve around the gym. And that's not you. When your program needs near perfect attendance to function, one bad week doesn't just cost you 1 week. It costs you the momentum, the habit, and the 2 or 3 weeks it takes to get going again once you've mentally written it off. This is genuinely how people end up carrying an extra 10 pounds for years, and it's not through laziness, not through a lack of effort, but because the program was never built to survive their actual life. And the fitness industry is absolutely salty on this idea, by the way. 5-6 day splits, people posting the 7th session of the week, and you look at that and think that's what it must take to get in shape, to get to 10% body fat. Well, let me tell you, it isn't. And I know because I trained 6 days a week for the Ironman back in 2021. I was the fittest I've ever been, and not exactly feeling my best at the same time in terms of how I look. So make of that as you will. And Cash here, my client, is the perfect example of what fixing this actually looks like. He came to me wanting to get in the best shape of his life before he turned 40. He had a demanding job, busy life, and he was trying to train 5 days a week and hitting 3 of them at best. Every week he missed felt like a failure, while every week he had hit 3, he felt like he'd underperformed against his expectation. And he was caught in this weird loop of overcommitting, falling short, feeling guilty, and trying to make up for it, and then repeating the whole thing again. And the frustrating thing was, he wasn't lacking effort at all. He was lacking the right structure. So this is what I did. I put him on 3 sessions a week, full body every session. 3 full body sessions means you can miss 1 and still have trained twice. If something comes up in your life, you've still trained twice and hit all major muscle groups, and you don't need everything to go perfectly for the structure to actually hold its own. And here's what most people don't expect when they make this switch. 3 full body sessions with progressive overload built in will outperform 5 inconsistent sessions with no real structure every single time. But because 3 is, for the majority of people anyway, easily done. And Cash went from a 5-day split he was hitting maybe 3 times a week to 3 sessions he never missed. And 12 weeks later, he had abs for the first time in years. And it wasn't because he tried harder, but because the structure finally survived his actual life. And here's what that actually means for someone trying to get to 10% body fat, because the training structure is only half of what's keeping most people stuck. And by the way, if you want the same plan Cash used to achieve these results and the one I use as well, I've got a 4-week softer lean program in the description. It's built around these principles, 3 sessions per week, full body, without being boring, and a structure that actually survives a mad week. It's completely free. So let's move on to mistake 2, which catches the people who've already figured out the training side of things. The ones who are showing up consistently and still not seeing the results they should be getting. The next place most people completely go off the rails is the nutrition. And the reason it's hidden is because it doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like you're eating well. It feels like you're doing all the research on all the intricacies of macros and micros. And don't get me wrong, I've personally been through all the bro science over the past 14 years, like the pre-workout window, the protein within 30 minutes of training, no carbs after 6, creatine timing, gut health, cortisol, testosterone support, fat burners, the lot. But ultimately, 99 times out of 100, it isn't the thing which is going to move the needle. The thing that gets me about this pattern is that people obsess over supplement timing, for example, are almost always the exact same people missing the protein target every single week. And the ones worrying about which carbs to cut are eating 500 calories more than they think, because nobody's shown them what a proper portion control even looks like. The complicated stuff isn't hurting them because it's wrong. It's hurting them because it's taken up all the mental energy that should be going on the basics. Paddy, another client, is the one who showed me just how far this can go. He came to me with a supplement stack that cost him more per month than most people spend on food. Creatine, pre-workouts, BCAAs, fat burns, the lot. He trained consistently for years. He put the effort in and he'd completely plateaued. Nothing was changing. And he was in the same shape, he was the same weight after years of showing up and going pretty much nowhere. But here's the thing, when I looked at what he was actually eating, eaten, his protein target was being completely missed for days. There was no real awareness of calories and no structure around meals, and the supplements were sitting on top of a foundation that just didn't exist. And this shows that he wasn't failing because he lacked commitment. He was failing because he was looking in completely the wrong direction the whole time. So here's what we did. We dropped the complicated stuff and sorted the basics. And the basics are genuinely just 4 things. Enough protein, around 1 gram per pound of body weight across 3 full meals. A moderate calorie deficit when fat loss is the goal. Mostly whole foods so hunger stays manageable. And enough flexibility built in that you can still enjoy your life. Meal out, few drinks, no standing in a restaurant car park trying to find a generic entry for lasagna on MyFitnessPal. That covers 95% of the result. And every supplement, every specific nutrient timing protocol, every food group you're considering cutting is sitting in the remaining 5%. But most people spend all the time in that 5% while completely ignoring the 95% that actually matters. Paddy dropped the supplement stack, sorted the protein, and understood the calories. And he built muscle while getting leaner at the same time, which not many people can do unless they're on gear. The thing he'd been trying to achieve for years while looking completely in the wrong direction. But mistake 3 is the one most people won't want to admit applies to them, but it probably does. And mistake 3 is the most hidden mistake of them all because it doesn't feel like you're doing anything wrong. It feels like sensible planning. And at some point, probably more than once, you've probably told yourself you'll get back on it when things calm down. When this deadline's done, when the kids are back at school, after the holiday, when January comes around. I get it, it makes complete sense in your head. Fresh start, everything lined up, then really go for it properly. But here's what actually happens. The deadline passes and something else comes up. Something else takes its place. January lasts 3 weeks before something derails it. The kids go back to school and work gets mental again at exactly the same time as before. And here's what nobody tells you about that pattern. Every week you wait is a week you're not building the thing that actually determines whether any of this even sticks, which is the habit. If you haven't guessed it already, mistake 3 is waiting for the perfect week. So going back to habits, they don't get built in the good weeks. They get built in the hard ones. The week you trained when work was brutal. The week you get 2 sessions in instead of the 3 and just kept doing it anyway. Perfect week in January where your calendar's clear and your motivation's through the roof after Christmas builds nothing because that week isn't your real life and your brain knows that. So waiting for the perfect conditions is actually quietly training yourself to only function under perfect conditions, which means the second life gets hard, and it will, there's nothing to fall back on. Sam, my client here, is the one that this hit the hardest. He came to me with what he called the skinny fat problem. I can almost guarantee a lot of you fall into this category as well. Not quite big enough to look like train, you're not lean enough to feel comfortable, you're stuck in that awkward middle zone. I mean, he'd been consuming fitness content for months, watched videos like this on YouTube, saved programs, nodded along to everything, and knew exactly what he needed to do. And he hadn't really got in the groove of it. Not because he was lazy, but because he was waiting for the right moment where everything would just finally line up and he could do this properly. But the problem is, that week was never coming. And somewhere underneath all the research and the saving and the nodding along, he knew that. So here's what we did. We didn't wait for the perfect week. We built something around the actual week he was living, in which 3 sessions that fit around his life as it was. I built some simple nutrition rules that didn't require a perfect day to work, a structure that bent when things got messy, with a night out with the lads or a weekend away in Ibiza. And within the first few weeks, he was seeing changes for the first time after months of not really knowing where to start, even though he had all the information. And if you recognize yourself in more than one of those, that's not a discipline problem, it's not a motivation problem, it's a design problem. The mistakes were hidden because they look like the right thing to do, but fixing the mistakes is only part of it, unfortunately, because even when you know what to stop doing, you still need to know exactly what to do instead. And I've got a video that shows my exact 3-day training week, the specific structure, the exercises, the sets, and why it produces better results than training 5 or 6 days. So if you want to know precisely what to replace these mistakes with, that video's over here somewhere, so you can watch that next.